Attention! Leaders of tomorrow's master race!
So this clip is from Wizards, which is a movie made in 1977 by Ralph Bakshi. He's the guy who also incidentally made the first Lord of the Rings movie about 23 years before Peter Jackson. Wizards is set in a post-technology world where an evil wizard discovers a projector and a cache of Nazi propaganda films, and he uses them to impose a dictatorship. It's an allegory about the potential evils of technology, and it's about the fact that the person who controls propaganda, the person who owns the data, is the person who has all the power. There's a similar war going on now, or a revolution, if you will. And all of you need to be part of this revolution. It's the data revolution. And data is the most significant weapon and the most powerful weapon that we have to keep governments and big business accountable and honest, or as honest as possible. It's the biggest weapon we have to keep them from screwing over the very people that they're supposed to be serving. It's a global battle. And if we pare it down to its essence, it really is a battle between good and evil. And the prize of this battle is the future. It's your future, it's my future, it's our future. You don't actually have a choice about whether you want to be in this battle or not. If you use a mobile phone, or if you have a social media account, or if you're online at all, you're already a pawn in this battle. In fact, your data is the battleground. Let me highlight some of the danger signs in our own country and on our continent. It's no exaggeration to say that every single government in the world would hate it if the citizens had access to data. They hate the idea of a citizenry that controls its own data. Every government in the world tries to hide its actions from its citizens, and it spies on its own citizens. The best and the biggest recent example of this, of course, lately is America's National Security Agency, who aggressively and secretly violated the privacy of Americans and people all over the world. And they still do that despite Edward Snowden, up on the screen, despite Edward Snowden's courageous exposure of their evil. And here in South Africa, we also have a government that seems intent on eroding our constitutional rights. We have the CEO of the SABC, Hladi Motsoeneng, for example, who tells us this.
For me, it is very important that we regulate media generally. For me, it is very important that we regulate media generally.
It's a bit unfair. I left the loop on his evil cackle. I was going to Photoshop a cat in, but it took too long. So this is the man who our public protector, Tuli Madonsela, tells us lied about the fact that he has a matric certificate, a fact that journalists have exposed. Do you wonder why he's trying to regulate journalism? So what is the open data revolution? It's the belief that government should publish all its data for the use of its citizens in a reusable format. Reusable is very important. One of the projects that my organization, Code for Africa, is working on, for example, is making data from the Nigerian Health Department open and accessible. Here's a picture they sent us of an actual department, which is not working. Here it is, of an actual department archive of people's health records. We've got people in there now fixing this stuff up, digitizing it. So you can see there's still quite a lot of work to be done. But governments, of course, are not comfortable with transparency at all. Last week, I was at the African Open Data Conference in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where Pali Legola, who's the Statistician General of South Africa, said the following. Is an open data revolution possible? I have my doubts, my serious doubts. At the same conference, the president of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete, said this. We would not be doing justice to government, I love that phrase, we would not be doing justice to government if we wanted everything to be open. From these examples and from many others, it's obvious that governments, and of course there are many worse examples, it's obvious that governments think of open data as a massive, massive threat to their power. And this is my new hero, a woman called Nene Nwakanma, who's from Nigeria, and she's from the World Wide Web Foundation. So on the same panel with these guys spewing this controlling stuff, she responded angrily and she said this. The opposite of open data is that nobody knows what government officials do. Data should be open by default. If you want to close data, you should ask me if you can close it. So in other words, governments shouldn't decide what data citizens can see and use. Citizens should decide what data government is allowed to protect. By the way, you might recognize the other woman here, who's the Brazilian president. Of course, the NSA tapped into her mobile phone and the staff's mobile phones as well in order to gain an economic advantage over Brazil. So they're doing it for the money, so much for the war on terrorism. So when I say that open data is an essential tool to build democracies and fight the abuse of power, I don't mean this is the only use of open data. Open data also allows us to tell stories as citizens and to impose our own meaning onto our lives, a bit like Jason was talking about in the introductory talk. It allows us to build tools that help make our lives better and the lives of other people better. Remember how nobody got social media about 10 years ago, and now social media gurus are like the cockroaches of digital agencies. They're everywhere. You can't kill them at all. And I've tried. The next big thing in digital agencies will be data editors. In 5 years' time, all of you will have data editors sitting in your agencies. So you all know that traditional media is, well, traditional models of journalism are, if not dead, at least in their death throes, thrashing around. This is not a reason to lament. The reason journalism exists is to change lives for the better. And what's replacing traditional journalism has the capacity to be even more powerful at doing that. The main difference is that great data journalism isn't just about the passive consumption of a story. We've replaced readers with users. And the users of a data journalism story or a data tool use the data to tell their own stories. Even better, they can add to the story by adding to the data. But the absolute prerequisite for this brave new world is that we don't allow governments to hide our data from us. We demand access to all the information we need to make sure that the people are in charge of the government, not the other way around. So South Africans are very proud of their constitution and often cite the right to freedom of expression and the right to privacy. But the most vital section of our Bill of Rights is Section 32, which guarantees that any citizen has a right to any information held by the state. We need to fight for this right. You can think of data as the creepy crawly that cleans out the dirty fire pools of government. Thank you very much.